if you are watching this video right now, you more than likely at one point in your life have been enrolled in school, or you probably are enrolled in school at the time of watching this video. And to probably most of us, school can be kind of dull at times. Sometimes it can just be mind-numbing and boring. And that's why you may want a little distraction to kind of keep your brain and, overall body from falling asleep. And it's changed over the years, whether it be little toys that you bring into the classroom. However, within the 2000s, with the introduction of computers being used a lot more often in classrooms and whatnot, finally we've had a new way to distract ourselves from our schoolwork. Yeah, pretty much instead of doing your science research project, now you play whatever Flash game is hot at the time. And yeah, I was also one of those people. I love Flash games. They're some of the coolest things ever. I have a lot of nostalgia for these games, and Flash Player will no longer be supported once December 2020 comes around. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it is going to be unusable, but support for it is definitely going to end soon by December of 2020. And that is why, given the fact of what I said before about how I love Flash games, I want to go on a journey. There are a bunch of Flash games out there, and on this journey while going through the school Flash game vault, I want to try and talk about as many of the games that I remember playing during class when I probably shouldn't have, and review them. Now, two things you want to keep in mind for this is that the review scale for this series is not going to be the same as normal. Usually I do my 0 to 10 scale, but this time, since you'd usually play these games during school, we're going to instead give them letter grades based on the normal grading scale in school. F is obviously really not good, the worst, and A+ is easily perfection, which I don't think many games will be getting. Also, I am going to be talking about these games from two perspectives. I'll be talking about them from the perspective of just playing them at school, and with the idea of them being a lunch break kind of game. And I'll also talk about them as being actual games as a whole. Because while these are Flash games, they're still games at the end of the day. And while they are fan games, they're still games. So I am going to review them as such. However, for the reviewing and all that stuff, and in terms of the score, it will mostly be picturing the idea of you being on your lunch break and just wanting to play games. So, yeah. But with all of that set in stone, let's start this journey with, we may as well start with a pretty big staple, Tetris. Everybody's heard of Tetris before. You know, the game where you twist and rotate blocks that fall down and you want to try and get them in a row and stuff like that. Pretty much that's what Tetris is, and it's Tetris. There isn't really a lot to say about this version of Tetris. It's Tetris. There isn't really a lot you can do. You can change the difficulty by changing the level number, but this is Tetris. You use the arrow keys to twist and move the pieces falling down, and while it doesn't have any music, it does have some sound effects that definitely do reek of Flash game sound effects. But overall, it's pretty decent. Puzzle games are usually the kind of game that you'd really want to zone out to when you're on a lunch break, so it's really good for that. It's basically Tetris, and even for a game that you would even play at home if you are so poor that you can't afford an actual game console, but you somehow have a computer and want to play Tetris, well, this version of Tetris isn't too bad. It actually is pretty fun, and while yes, it doesn't have music, it's a great zone kind of game. It's really good. I give this game an A. I think it's really good. Definitely the kind of game that you could just zone out to. Definitely the kind of game that can keep your attention for quite a while, just for how simple the game is. And that's the thing that you're going to see with a lot of these games. These games are very simple, but the thing is, simple is always better. Especially when it comes to this. You see, you don't usually play Flash games at home. That's not really how it works. So at school, you kind of want them to be more simple. Think of like a mobile game, you could say. But that's getting off topic quite a bit. Tetris is really fun. I mean, it's Tetris, so you really can't go wrong with it. So, let's move on to... So this is definitely more of a fan game as opposed to an original title. Super Mario Flash basically is a Mario game made in Flash. It takes a lot of elements from that of Super Mario All-Stars with its graphics, music, sound effects, all that jazz. Pretty much, it's basically Super Mario Bros. 3 mixed with the All-Stars version of Super Mario Bros. 1. It's not too bad. It has the music, the sound effects are really good. Pretty much all of it's not bad. It's definitely a good game to play because, I mean, Mario's so fun, especially the 2D games, that it's just fun to kind of zone out to this game. Although there is one thing I will say, this game has no invincibility frames. You can die within like a second. It's that fast. Seriously, they couldn't have put invincibility frames in here, really. Also, some of the jumps on some of these levels just are kind of weird. Sometimes you'll use enemies as platforms. The design isn't always that great, although I would definitely say that it's not too bad. As opposed to a normal 2D Mario game, this isn't the best thing at all. It's clearly fan-made, but I'll be honest, it's not that bad. For being a free Flash game that you would play normally during school, it's not too bad. It has a lot of levels that are packed into it, more than I've even finished. And the game does pack quite a bit of a challenge, which is definitely something that you will see with some of these games. Although I definitely will say it's not the best thing ever. It's pretty fun. Now, in terms of playing this game at home, no. You definitely want to play the other normal 2D Mario games. But for the kind of game that you are playing during class, it's pretty decent. So on my scale, I'll give it a B+. It's definitely pretty good, but it definitely does have its issues. Next game we've got is Slope, and this one's pretty simple to explain. This is the first title we've covered so far that's actually fully original. Basically, you're this ball that goes down this slide or slope, and basically you just don't want to either get hit by any object or fall off. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Basically, it's a high score based game. You just kind of want to get the best number and just not die. Essentially, there are these obstacles in the way, and they flow through a variety of patterns. Like, sometimes the path will be curvy and stuff like that. Sometimes there will be these red blocks that go from side to side, or they go up and down. And after a few obstacles, the game will eventually give you another speed boost to make you go faster. Definitely a good game, although there is one issue with the game. And this is specific versions of the game's controls will actually break. There are times where you will get launched into the air where the game will then force you right, which basically could screw up your chance of getting a high score. This is incredibly annoying because this is a high score based game. So adding this level of frustration here is really not a good thing. But other than that, the game's very simple but really fun. It's very similar to that of a mobile game. And, it's definitely fun to zone out to. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever, but if you just want to play a game that can be kind of addictive, and while it doesn't have the best controls, it's fine enough. And not all versions are like this, because I know some versions don't have this glitch. Hopefully someone can patch it out in these things, but overall Slope is a pretty decent game. On my scale, I give it a A-. Give it an A-. It's not too bad of a game. It's definitely a fun game to zone out to, and just overall, a very fun high score based game. Next we got another Mario game, this time Super Mario Bros. Crossover. Now, this is a unique version of the game, as this is not the SNES version, because there's two versions of this game. The only one I ever really played was the one that was a recreation of the original Super Mario Bros. But, as the name suggests, it's basically Super Mario Bros., but you can play as different characters. And it's not just reskins of the Mario sprite like some Mario mods are. No, they actually play like they do from the original games. Link actually uses a sword and can actually use the boomerang. Bill can use the gun and stuff like that. Simon can use pickaxes as well as his iconic whip and so much stuff. The game is really fun, although it definitely can be OP considering the game isn't made for all playstyles. There are definitely characters, Bill for example, that's pretty much the best way to play the game. The characters are better than others, and it's okay. It's not the worst deal ever, but it's basically Super Mario Brothers, but with a twist. And the game works really well. It actually feels like you play as these characters, but in Super Mario Brothers. It's a really good game to just kind of play, and honestly, just really good overall. It isn't the best thing ever. I do wish there was a better save feature, but overall, this is a stellar title. On my grading scale, I gave this game an A. This game is great in so many ways. It's a great game to zone out to because everybody's played Super Mario Brothers at least once in their life. And being able to kind of play it with other characters is great. And hell, if you don't want to play with other characters, they do give the option to just play as Mario. So, there. And last game to round it out today, we've got Blockors, or Bloxors, I don't know how to pronounce it. Basically, it's another one of those puzzle games sort of things. Essentially, you're this rectangular brick. You essentially have to get yourself falling into the hole. Yeah. Honestly, there's not really a lot to say. You could basically move your piece all around these grids, and essentially... But the thing about it is that it's not easy getting the hole because you have to be positioned just right so the entire rectangle can fit through. So you're going to have to use quite a bit of strategy to actually play this game. It's good, but I wouldn't really say it's my favorite. I think the game is good for a puzzle game, but I also don't feel like it's the most engaging. I feel like compared to Tetris, it's kind of difficult to be honest. I can only really get past like the first 4 or 5 stages before I don't really know where to go from there. But it's really whatever. And in terms of a game like you play on your lunch break and like, during class while you shouldn't be, it's fine enough. I wouldn't really say this is my first choice, honestly. This is one of those games that's on Cool Math Games, which will definitely see a lot of games in later episodes that come from this website, because they're a big supplier of Flash games, but that's not for right now. But Blockors is a fine game, but I wouldn't really say it's my favorite. It has kind of dull graphics, to be honest. Everything just looks so meh. It doesn't really have a lot of color that goes with it. Like Tetris, that had a lot of colors with the bricks, but not really here. Not my favorite. Overall, I'd say it's a good game. It's a fine puzzle game, don't get me wrong. But it's definitely not my favorite. Definitely not my first choice. And on my grading scale, I'm going to give this one a C+. Not bad, but it's far from my favorite type of game to play on Flash. So this was a look at 5 Flash games that I grew up playing. And this is far from all of them. There are so many Flash games I have to go through. But overall, you probably can tell from this, some of you might have probably actually played these games, to be fully honest. And I'll be honest, yeah, these games are not too bad. Most of the time, they're fine enough for lunch breaks, but as actual games, they're not really the best thing. They're kind of too simple. They're very similar to that of mobile games, where they're very simple. They're kind of the kind of games that you kind of play while you're just on the bus waiting to get to work or something like that. It's really one of those things where it's not the best thing ever, but like, it's definitely a good time killer when you really need it. Especially school, since school can be kind of dull at times. Instead of being a good and diligent student, you instead play these Flash games on your computer. Either that or you just play games on your mobile device. I don't really know. But regardless, this has been the first part of the school Flash game vault. And Yeah, so if you guys did enjoy this, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know if you guys grew up with these games as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, take care.
It's showtime! Did you enjoy the show? Well, time for the highlight.